Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you are. 1 a.m. on the East Coast, 8 a.m. in Kiev, 9 a.m. in Moscow, 3 p.m. in Tokyo, and 10 p.m. in Los Angeles. These is these. This, I guess, would be a rundown of the headlines that many have flipped once and twice in just again another 24 hours. Headlines ending 3:10:22 as we now enter 3:11:22 with the argument of the former Soviet Union, Russia, and the Kremlin, and the announcement of all internet sites have to have an internal, they're going to be state-run .ru. Some interesting headlines across the board. So the companies that have jumped on board the bandwagon to boycott talks of Mariupol and the stunning correlation between this maternity ward and some technology. Speaking of the technology, an update on whether the weapons labs may or may not exist and who's paying for them and what are they doing. The Chernobyl situation, an update on that, and an update on Facebook. So without further ado, let's go. All of the show notes, you can go find them over on my Twitter feed, the Scooter McGee. Or you can on social media, there's a bunch of them there on my Facebook page, Scooter McGee. And show notes and the tags and this, if you're not live and you find it later and then you like what you see, support it on my Patreon page, Scooter McGee. All right. As leaders were going to meet in Turkey, and as the discussion in Poland as to who's getting jets and what jets are they getting, and well, let's just give them weapons, this now becoming the mob demanding a proxy war. Proxy wars don't work well, but opinions aside, here are the death points since I saw all of you last night. We do this every night at 11 o'clock Mountain Time. I don't know why. But anyway, there are claims now regarding this stunning announcement and turn of the news in 72 to 96 hours regarding biological weapons in Ukraine. And the claim now is there is a biological or chemical attack in Ukraine. It's the Russians. And if anybody says anything to the contrary, it's Russian propaganda. I leave it at that for now. As I tried to explain the other night in my predictions in the end of December, beginning of January, regarding if the Army and the Navy and the Air Force of the Soviet Union do this, it could cause X, Y, and Z. But if X happens, numbers will geometrically grow quickly. In the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday morning overnight, and in a period of 36 hours, 500,000 refugees to 1 million to 1.2 million to 1.7 to 2 million. We are at 3 million and growing now. Again, okay, well, it was 500,000 to 2 million. If 500,000 flee, I said as Scooter Damas on the Conspiracy Keepers, then it's not 2 to 5, it's going to be 2 to 10. And if you have 10 million refugees, you could very possibly have, sadly, 10 million dead. Numbers aren't suggesting that, however. The tactics that the Soviet Army, the Red Army, the Russian Army are using, especially when it comes to their tanks, seems odd. The convoy's moving now, a 40-mile convoy, but some interesting things are happening according to certain sources like ABC and NBC, and yet CNN is parroting something completely different now. 230 companies are growing with the initial announcement by McDonald's and Starbucks and Coca-Cola regarding ceasing operations in Russia. However, many of the companies that are mentioning and expressing and denouncing and jumping on the profile bandwagon and changing their colors and putting their flags, the businesses remain open. The White House, in fact, did announce that there will be an immediate ban on any Russian. We will not be importing anything Russia. The House has now approved a $13.6 billion bill for Ukraine that was originally will be asking for $6 million that went to $6.4 billion. It's now $13.6 billion. United Airlines. Oh, this one's good. Okay, no stories, no Planet of the Apes, no nothing. Here is a major data point for 3/10/3/11 in a take out the trash news cycle. United Airlines announced that for any and all of it did not occur to me, the volume. Thank you, sorry. It's going to get louder in 6 minutes and 12 seconds. I'll put it in the notes. Shit. Oh, now everybody needs a cigarette. I forgot what I was going to say. No, I didn't. United Airlines. United Airlines has announced for all of the employees that lost or quit or had a little engagement with management and HR regarding the vaccine and not getting a vaccine or not showing proof, whatever, who were discharged from, were discharged from United Airlines, they left on their own. Yeah, well, United Airlines is now welcoming them back. Is that not wonderful? Hold on a second. I am taking something else in this ear. Now in with the devices. We are back. Okay, apologize for that. The announcement of United Airlines and 230 companies, other companies claiming they're going to cease operations, boycott. Well, they're still running operations in Moscow and St. Petersburg and Leningrad. And don't be fooled. We'll see when the sanctions take place. Although the United States Americans, you consumers, can be proud of the vicious blow you've delivered to Vladimir Putin by no longer accepting 5%, roughly 5% of our necessary needs of energy from Vladimir, and economic prices continue to soar. Gasoline reaching another record high day, a third consecutive day in a row. Now at allegedly either $4.17 a gallon, or $4.25 a gallon, depending upon which gas averages you're using and what. We haven't even discussed the rate of inflation, and we now may be entering stagflation. It will wait till the end of the month so we can see the economic numbers and the economic indicators. The United Airlines comment, why I tangented for a moment to have a cigarette, was because of, I think in the Take Out the Trash News weekend cycle, you're going to see a bunch of companies. You had your old job that well. Now's the time you get to make a deal. Don't be grateful that your former employer is going to call you back. Hey, I'm not driving to work every day at that salary. I know my worth. Know your worth. They are stealing your money blind now. As the immediate call to action, the moment the Ukrainian crisis happened, either on February 21st or February 24th, depending upon what timeline and propaganda news cycle you were getting, regarding Russian military exercises, as now the Americans and NATO, American troops, they're having military war games in Latvia, and NATO's going to have some military war games. And the other one, Estonia, and then NATO, not to be outdone, they're going to have some really big war games coming up. Right there on the border in the region. Why? Continued escalation, meaning the sanctions and the negotiations and the meetings they're going to be having are only going to draw this out even longer. Of course, they're being preconditioned for that. Still, all people fleeing as refugees and the carnage and the horror. It's not the media's job to report the horror. Show the story, tell the data points, let them decide whether it's horror, entertainment, or propaganda. League Baseball, as of last night, was canceling another week of Major League Baseball. Today, the commissioner announced that all the 30 parties all had a vote, and it was unanimous, 30 to nothing. Play ball for 2022. 162 game season will start depending upon where you are. The Colorado Rockies' first home opener will be on April 8th. There's your sports news. Problems on the International Space Station. We have Americans and Russians working together in harmony and peace. We can't have that. Watch that political problem develop so we can manage the crisis. Tiger Woods is now inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. Glad you got that into the news cycle. That was important. Arguments as America, what I call daylight of day. Can't say the F-bomb. I could, but then I'd be breaking. I said I wouldn't do it, so I won't. Try not to. Daylight of time. Calls. See, this is the whole. They just really aren't going to be happy till they mess everything up. How they're phrasing this. Arguments now to get rid of daylight savings time. Yeah, but they've been doing that for 20 years. That's incrementalism. That's trying to get the camel toe under the tent. Well, here it comes. They're steamrolling everything else. Joe Biden has signed an executive order to dig into the possibility of the United States having a digital currency. As continued economic indicators are forecasting now stagflation and double-digit inflation at rates the United States have never seen. The situation in Chernobyl has continued to be described by the West and the BBC and ABC and NBC as fragile as Russian army forces cut the power to Chernobyl. However, the IAEA is they're monitoring the situation, but it doesn't seem as critical as everybody. Yeah, because everything's internal, but they're going to run out of water, and they're going to run out of food, and they're going to run out of diesel power. That changes the whole game. The other game changer now is the West is having to admit how stunned they are, how much their intelligence was wrong in what appears to be a decrepit, unskilled, and untrained and unprepared Russian army. And the senior fellows that we're getting from the Army War College, who are lieutenant colonels, are about the most worthless pundits you could put on the air at night, regardless of what news channel you are. The Russia and Ukrainian ministers meeting in Turkey. In the Florida House, while everybody's focusing on who's gay and who's not and how young you can teach somebody about whether or not, I don't know, I'm not getting into that. The Florida House passed a bill for the elections police force. I wonder if the Florida elections police force are going to wear that same goofy helmet that all the reporters are wearing. In a recent poll now, 22% of Americans believe America is headed in the right direction. The problem is the 77% who answered they believe America is heading in the wrong direction. Don't know if that data is going to come out in the news cycle. Elon Musk has come out regarding censorship because Facebook is temporarily allowing posts on Ukraine war calling for violence against invading Russians or Vladimir Putin's assassination. This is being reported 3/22/22 by Reuters. Elon Musk came out stating, and regarding, again, the Russian enclosure now, the cyber attacks in Ukraine, and mass censorship on Twitter, Facebook, and etc., Elon Musk stated that Starlink will not be censoring any information of any kind. Period. Next. Putin, however, to his people in his latest address, told his people by declaring to the people, Russia will be coming out stronger than ever. We will be a stronger nation for what is going on in Ukraine. More censorship. DuckDuckGo announced that it will be censoring their searches using the DuckDuck. Okay, wait a minute. That was their whole business model. So now they are going to say, okay, I see. Well, that, interesting time, huh? Yeah, I don't suppose Twitter and Facebook, I forget what year. My memory banks are getting very full of numbers again. I don't remember if it was 2005 or 2015. Facebook and Twitter and the censorship nonsense. And China was what China was. Now China is what China is. The number one market anybody wants? I mean, the market that we are slaves to, but in a different China. How'd you like to have the first real social media that controls it? This is getting more and more suspicious. Considerable internet disruption was reported earlier in the overnight of 3/11 and the morning of 3/22 of isolated and localized cyber attacks, not only in Ukraine but around the world. And in particular in Ukraine, it wasn't the ISP, it was the network providers. So that's an interesting data point. Well, I'm just skimming now to make sure that I got all of these. I know. How did Tiger Woods get in? I don't know. Oh, mass graves for the dead were being reported and shown to the west coming out of Mariupol. But many, I'm going to leave that to you in your comments. Man received the first pig heart transplant almost 2 months ago, died in the last 36 hours. That was an interesting story. That's on my Twitter feed. That's just B Scooter McGee. Again, the White House is now warning that Russia may use chemical and biological attacks. That is allegedly propaganda. The White House hides. Anyone who claims that it isn't otherwise than Putin, propaganda, well, you just sit there worried about, well, then maybe it's propaganda. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the word. Because there's bad propaganda and then there's no, I know. Go, yes. And Kamala Harris's appearances. Kids are dying and Kamala's cackling. Not funny at all. And we're here in cooperation and solid. I made it. We shouldn't get, okay, this went wrong. Why did I do it that way? We shouldn't have. We're not going to add stupid stories. Did I miss something? Thought I had more notes. No, those are 9. Here's the 10. Here's the 11 cut off and 11, 2, 3, and I got through them that fast. 3 pages of headlines in 19 minutes, 18 minutes, 19 and a half minutes. All right, we got it down to 20. We're supposed to kill 30 a night, but I've been giving people extra segments and extra length. So, if you like it, subscribe, tell your friends about the, what should it be? Give me a moment. The number one podcast nobody listens to, or the number one podcast nobody knows about? Or No, not number one. The most listened to podcast nobody knows about. That'd be funny. But none of these headlines were. And the hype and the calls now for a proxy war, if we just keep it isolated to Ukraine, we won't have nuclear war. You know, it's funny when Congress goes after somebody with a goofy color hair. Even the nuclear, everything's on the table. Congress loves the nuclear option when it comes to the filibuster. Again, and I've joked the last, now 96. We're out of the 100-hour launch window when I made the joke. When do we start demonizing the Russian tea room? You can now call for the death of Russian army. You can call, this is allegedly, no, it's not, it's reported by Reuters that Facebook, let me make sure I quote that because I did. You mean when hey, you know what, don't you dare. This is Reuters. Facebook temporarily allows posts on Ukraine war calling for violence against invading Russians or Putin's death. 3/22/22, Reuters. Oh. I know the mark of Zorro is appearing everywhere, and the kids are behaving badly with their hands and their fists in certain ways, and it's very easy to drum up the crowd and to get them to say a few simple words to command societal change. And the virtue signaling continues regarding wearing a mask and driving your car alone on a highway. I know I'm not the crazy one. And if you found me, you probably aren't either. Find more and hear more different opinions, views, and ideas on the Conspiracy Keepers. You can find me on Facebook. I don't know for how long. Scooter McGee on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, the Scooter McGee. And I'd appreciate your support at Patreon. But even at Patreon, the videos are free. So maybe find a rich uncle and send it to them, and they can help fund the show. Be well, be safe. Unless there is a catastrophic meltdown at Chernobyl, because we're gravely concerned. Are you as gravely concerned about a fragile situation in Chernobyl as the deeply concerned, deep versus grave, and the shallow versus the mass? Which are you more concerned about? Nuclear exchange? Because that may just cover up your little weapons labs. Are they weapons labs? Are they research facility? You're worried about Vladimir Putin getting old Russian stuff back into his hands. What did you do with it? Is it just files? Is it test tubes? What is it? Because demonizing and boogeymanning anybody that is now talking about it, to have a Z is proud, have a Q, and the mob will come after you. I don't understand it. Help me understand. Leave a comment. Contact me on social media. And until 1 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Moscow, 3 p.m. Tokyo, and 10 p.m. Los Angeles time. I'll see you sooner. See you then.